a question from the chat room from Sister Seta, and she wants to know, what can we do to get out of this particular situation? And I believe exactly what she means, those that are trying to hold us down and keep us from ascending. What can we do to counteract that?
I mean, go inside. Realistically, the whole thing with the power of this, as they say, the pen is more powerful than the sword, right? They're meaning the pentagram is more powerful.
James, you say go inside.
You go inside.
Is this something collective that we do as a humanity, or is this something that each individual does?
When the individual does it, that's when they'll meet humanity. That's what I'll say, because when we fail to do it ourselves internally, when we go out external to anything, we are doing it somewhat of an injustice if we have not discovered it yet within, because we're off balance. So everything that we interact with in an off balance way. So when we go inside and we go internal and we start to repair ourselves. Now remember, this gets very basic on the physical level. This is not, we could take it from the physical body, the mental body, and the spiritual body. We did a lot of, or the soul body. We did a lot of soul conversation. We did a lot of mental conversation today. But when you get into the fleshly body, the first thing you have to realize is very similar to a car. You don't run the car continuously without an oil change and to change the filters. So with the body, you can't really keep running it in eating all the toxins and breathing all the toxins without taking it through a whole body cleanse. So that's generally the first thing that we recommend to an individual before they even start delving into this mental or this spiritual stuff. And the reason is because how you'll perceive it if your filters, as we call it, are dirty or your lenses are dirty, how you'll see it is you'll see it distorted. So this has a tendency to get us trapped in a chakra or trapped in a state of mind where we're constantly battling a certain state of our consciousness and not actually cycling our energy. So I have a lot of recordings in regards to how to cleanse the body properly, how to take care of your water, which is another thing as being 70% water. You need to drink structured water. Structured water is the key to your immune system and also the key to your body being able to
what is
amplify.
Structured water? I never heard of that.
Structured water opposed to unstructured water is basically when you send water down a 90-degree angle into a system like, let's say, the wastewater treatment system. The water's in darkness. It's not absorbing any light. And then you get this water out of the tap. This water, if you looked at it on the scale, you can look at, I think it's Mimoto is the gentleman's name from Japan, about the water crystals. You can see the structure of the water, which actually pushes out a perfect continuous hexagonal structures, proving that water is actually a birthing pool. So that gets deeper into the ancient knowledge. But what happens is that the more perfect the water, the more perfect the cell and the organism. So it could be just a water war, like your parents would tell you. If they're going to do something to us, they're going to do it in the water, baby. You better believe it. Like, it's coming from quite a few different angles at this point because you're dealing with these angels again. But the reality is that this is something serious with the water, something serious about keeping the body cleansed. Then what you do is when you make these adjustments to the body.
I hate to interrupt you again, James. Mm-hmm. Where do you get structured water? Is it something that you can do in your home, or is it a product that's purchased? It's
something that you can do at home. We have some videos called "It's in the Water." Like, a person can contact me or Google, just email me or whatever, and I can send them the links. Also,
give your website out again as well. Somebody in the chat wanted to know your website.
It's just astralquest.com. That's ASTRAL quest.com, and then or resistance2010.com. Either one that you can definitely get us. But so yeah, I mean, the structured water, you can do structuring. It's good, better, best with the water. We're still on it's in the water part 90. We keep perfecting the water more and more. It doesn't seem like it has any real limitations like that. And it's a very interesting subject within itself, because obviously it changes your state of consciousness because you're drinking it. So the water holds information and memory, and water in itself is an amazing thing. I can't say enough about it and what it can really do for this organism and the subsequent bodies because of what it really connects to. So remember, all of this stuff that I'm also explaining about these priestcrafts and the zodiac and Zodiac and Jupiter and all this kind of stuff is the external explanation of something that is really elements. And
should this particular water, once you get it structured, be devoid of fluorides and say other types of or heavy metals rather. I'm sorry about that.
Of course. I mean, in the tints, there's no real way to structure it with those kind of elements inside of it. So
Okay.
generally what you do first is you take the water through a distillation process. Distilled water is still unstructured water. That's why we still mark it as good, meaning it's better than tap water, but it doesn't make it into the better category exactly because it's not structured. So then either it must be taken through just a regular filter, which mineralizes the water. And some people have even come up with their own concoctions of how to take the water to filter. Because remember, filters are just, it's soil in a tints with minerals. So you can, and then the water is sent through it, and the water goes all the way through it. And then once it drips out of the bottom, it now is infused with those minerals. So if this is something really rudimentary to build when you start to visualize it properly, but there also are water machines that you can then take the distilled water through, which was quite a task. Like, we realized that that's where the catch was in this whole system, is that they'll sell you a water distiller, but it won't be able to be linked. It won't have a accessible water purifier, because water purifiers generally work on pressure from the sink. So you have to have the sink's pressure or the sink's pump to push the water into the filter. And the reason why this makes all the world of difference is because if you're trying to use your water, now you got to go and get a secondary pump to pump out your water into this device. And this is there's only like one or two devices that are really efficient at doing that. And so I'm definitely, that information is available on the site. But that was the next step, is to restructure the water. And then the next level was to magnetize it. Now, because when you're at structured water, you're now at better. But the best is to actually align the poles within the water. Like, there's poles that are like going everywhere, like radicals, that you can realign when you take it through a vortex trap. And this is basically the spiral that you see when you shake up a Coca-Cola bottle, and then you see that spiral in the middle. There's a way, especially with a stir plate, to take water through a spiral. You just have to do it in both directions. And this is some of the stuff, trial and error. What happens if you spin the water in one direction and then with magnetics, and then drink that water? You can literally feel yourself go into that hemisphere of yourself. And sometimes it even causes some physical issues. So we noticed that it was because you have to spin the water in one direction and then spin it for equal time back in the other, and that aligns it and balances it. And then what you're dealing with then is that you have better memory cells in your body. So you're not only able to remember immense level of information and access things, you also put together the code. And that's what I want to talk about very briefly, the code to the matrix.